The Galactic Archive shouldn't have responded. It was supposed to reject unauthorized searches instantly, especially for sealed species files. But when Alira Voss keyed in the term, Deathworld 0, the terminal didn't blink red. Instead, it hesitated, like a living thing caught off guard, then displayed a flicker. Just one line of data. Origin classification, Earth, redacted. Her breath caught. Earth hadn't been mentioned in any scholarly compendium for decades. Not as an active polity, not even as a relic. No hyperlinks. No metadata tags. Nothing usable. Except for one anomaly. The security signature encoded in the file's deletion trail. A pattern, sharp, aggressive. Human-made encryption. She'd only seen it once before, in a declassified war brief Ryle had shown her years ago. She didn't waste time. She tapped her comm. Ryle. It's me. I need a favor. A stupid one. A beat. Those are your specialty, came the dry response. They met in the underbelly of Varelian Prime, far from Council eyes. Ryle wore civilian fatigues, but he moved like someone always calculating angles. She showed him the terminal log on her tablet. His eyes narrowed. Where did you pull this? Old archive wing. Xenocultural lexicons. It wasn't locked properly. He exhaled sharply, mouth tightening. This key hash, yeah, it's human. Obsolete, but military grade. Probably buried when the Council started sterilizing records post-Dark Rift War. You think Earth's record is still out there? I think, he said, tapping the display. They tried too hard to make sure we never ask. They broke in that night. Technically, Ryle bypassed security with a decades-expired officer's clearance. Alira handled the rest, syntax decoders, adaptive query mirrors, and a pulse suppressor to mute the feed. The door to Archive Subdeck 9 slid open with a hiss no one should have heard. Inside, vacuum-sealed data obelisks humming in silence. Untouched since the formation of the Outer Accord. Pre-Council. Dangerous knowledge lived here. She led them to Vault C-17. Her instincts screamed that was the one. This room's shielded, Ryle muttered. EM dampening. No remote access. Whatever's inside, they didn't just bury it. They caged it. He keyed the lock override. The vault hissed open. Inside, a single datacore pulsed faintly on a pedestal, glowing faint red. Alira stepped closer. It's titled Obsidian Crown. But the metadata references Earth. Open it. I'm not sure what we're about to see. Doesn't matter. You came to dig up ghosts. Let's meet one. The holographic feed crackled to life. They were watching what looked like a council trial, but different. Not ornate. No media present. Just 8 seated members, and a single screen playing video. Earth. No cities. No flags. Just chaos. A scorched savanna. Ash-blackened skies. A human figure crawled through debris, dragging another behind them, a child barely breathing. Smoke billowed from collapsed towers in the distance. Council voices echoed, translated. This footage confirms all suspicions. This species self-selects for environments of violence. Evolution driven by extinction. Peace is not their native state, it is weaponized. Another scene. A flooded city. Humans building makeshift rafts. An elderly man handed over his oxygen tank to a stranger. Behavioral anomalies observed, self-sacrifice for non-kin. Incompatible with herd survival logic. Dangerous empathy. Then a shift. Footage from orbit. Human warships disintegrating an asteroid minutes from impact. Threat classification irrevocable. Deathworld status elevated to Class 0. Earth to be redacted from Galactic Registry. Observers withdrawn. Subject species to be quarantined indefinitely. The final screen showed the file's author. High Consul Tevrin Jail. 30 standard years ago. Ryle stood frozen. We weren't just blocked from the Council. We were erased. Alira's voice came low. They feared us. Not because we're destructive. Because we endure. The lights in the vault dimmed. A soft tone beeped. Ryle's head snapped up. We triggered something. The outer door slammed shut. Sealed. Alira dropped to the console. Security lockdown. Passive sensors must have pinged us. I'll breach the door. You do that, I'll dump the core to this drive. 30 seconds. Something thumped in the corridor. Then again. Heavier this time. Not boots. Claws. Ryle turned, weapon drawn. Riven. Alira's blood froze. The Riven weren't soldiers. They were council-bred silencers. Clade sculpted to erase threats, not with violence, but by devouring memory itself. Victims didn't die. They simply vanished from the records. No body. No trace. No questions. The door's locking plate began to melt from the outside. Acidic hiss. 15 seconds, she whispered, fingers flying. Time's up. He grabbed her arm, yanked the drive mid-download, and slapped it into his jacket. Run! They ducked through service conduits, dodging through heat shafts, substructural crawl spaces, and a maintenance tunnel Ryle swore didn't exist anymore. Alarms didn't blare. The council didn't want attention. They wanted silence. At last, they burst into a transit lift. The doors slammed shut behind them. Alira leaned against the wall, panting. We lost it. Ryle held up the drive. We saved enough. What if they trace it? They'll try. So we move fast. She stared at him. I thought I came here to study myths. But we are the myth, Ryle. He gave a tired, grim smile. Then let's make sure the galaxy hears it. They didn't speak until the shuttle broke orbit. The cabin lights were low. Alira sat cross-legged on the floor, hands trembling as she pulled the drive from Ryle's jacket. The core had been yanked mid-transfer, half the files corrupted. The rest? Fragmented. Can you salvage it? Ryle asked. Maybe. If we hit a dark channel and filter it through an old Gen 5 decoder. Her voice was tight, focused. But we won't have long. Council trace protocols activate within 36 hours. Probably sooner. He nodded once. Then we stay ahead. They landed in the Vrax Belt, an asteroid cluster known for smuggler dens, data brokers, and things that preferred to remain unnamed. Alira didn't flinch as the docking clamps scraped across their hull. She was busy patching together the drive fragments, each one a puzzle piece. Blurred footage. Incomplete memos. Sound files with deliberate silences. And something else, an audio note embedded deep in the metadata. It was a voice, barely audible. Human. Project Obsidian Crown was not just a cover. Earth was never lost. We stepped back to observe. Alira blinked. Ryle, someone's been feeding these files back into the network. A leak. From inside. Ryle leaned closer. From where? She rotated the coordinates. It's old military encoding. Pre-accord. Looks like a relay ping, from Sector Null. His expression changed. That sector had no official designation. No traffic. No maps. Just rumors. Of ships vanishing. Of black sites. He stood. We're going. The only station in Sector Null wasn't on any star chart. It drifted in the shadow of a dying white dwarf. No comms. No beacons. Just one airlock. Manual seal. The corridor inside reeked of ammonia and copper. Alira wrapped her scarf tighter. A figure met them in the dark. Male, maybe late 40s, skin pale from artificial light. Did someone send you? He asked, voice rasping. We found your file signature, Ryle said, cautious. The man twitched. I didn't send it. He led them past flickering lights and cracked consoles. Medical equipment lined the walls, half of it rusted, the other half covered in dust and dried blood. Alira caught her breath. Were you testing people here? The man didn't answer. He stopped at a sealed pod. Inside, a human woman lay comatose. Scarred. Wired to a decaying monitor. Oxygen mask clinging to her face. She was the last one, he whispered, We tried to reverse what the Council did. But they used the Riven. Not just to kill. To erase. Alira finished. The man turned slowly. They fed on memory. Not just personal. Cultural. Historical. They wiped out records we didn't even know existed. And the ones who survived. His voice cracked. She remembers things she never lived. Battles that never happened. Cities that don't exist anymore. Ryle looked grim. You said Project Obsidian Crown. What was it? The man hesitated. It was Earth's countermeasure. If the Council ever moved beyond containment, we faked extinction events. Burned our coordinates from the star charts. Then we watched. And this place? A relay. A whisper channel to keep the truth barely alive. We failed. Alira studied the woman's vitals. Weak, but steady. She leaned in close. The woman's lips moved. Alira froze. She said your name? Ryle whispered. Alira turned. That's impossible. But then the woman said it again, barely above a breath. Alira. Later, in the shuttle, Alira stared at the ceiling. She knew me. Somehow. But I've never seen her. She's not wrong, Ryle said, reviewing the data scans. Her neural patterns, this isn't just trauma. It's implantation. Memory grafting. From who? Maybe everyone. Every erased human she encountered. She's the archive now. Alira leaned forward, eyes wide. If we can help her speak clearly, she might have everything. Names. Locations. Orders. Ryle gave a sharp nod. Then we get her to a place where she can be heard. And where's that? He hesitated. There's one neutral system with protected status. Caress Station. No council jurisdiction. You think we'll make it? No, he said. But we're going anyway. They were halfway to Kareth when the signal found them. A pulse, soft at first. Then a sudden surge. Lights flickered. Ryle's fingers flew over the console. They found us. The woman's body spasmed in her cryopod. Alira rushed to her. Her readings are spiking. The screen beside the pod glitched. Text scrolled across in sharp, angular glyphs. You stole the forbidden name. Ryle drew his sidearm. They're in the system. Alira grabbed a portable drive. We dumped the survivor's brain map into this and run. No. We can't run. Not from them. A noise. Behind them. Metal scraping against metal. Ryle raised his weapon slowly. Then it came. The Riven. Not humanoid. Not really. Fluid-limbed, eyeless, wearing skins that shimmered like liquid shadow. It didn't charge. It stepped through the corridor like it owned silence. Alira stared, paralyzed. The Riven opened its mouth, and the lights around them dimmed. Don't listen! Ryle barked. But it was too late. A pressure invaded her thoughts. Not pain, absence. Her name, her memories, her face in the mirror, all flickering like a dying feed. Ryle fired. One shot. Straight into the Riven's chest. It staggered, but didn't fall. Run! Alira grabbed the cryopod's lever, yanked hard, and ejected it toward the emergency chute. Ryle shouted something she couldn't hear over the roar of decompression as he hit the override. The Riven lunged. And then the room exploded in vacuum and light. Alira's emergency pod tumbled through the void, systems barely holding. The cryopod with the survivor drifted beside her. She looked through the tiny viewport, heart hammering. The woman inside stirred. Her lips moved again. Obsidian. Crown. Alira whispered back. I'm listening. Alira hadn't slept in 26 hours. The pod's Medline interface flickered amber every time the survivor stirred. She watched it from across the cramped emergency bay, knees drawn to her chest, a cold nutrient pack untouched in her hands. Caress Station, the autopilot announced. Non-aligned territory. Prepare for manual docking. Alira leaned forward. Through the viewport, the station emerged like a massive wheel of glass and carbon steel, half of it scorched from an old border skirmish, the other half rebuilt with tech from half a dozen species. Refugees, smugglers, defectors, all called it home. Neutral only by necessity. Alira activated the pod's transponder. This is Alira Voss. Human. I have a council-classified survivor. I need clearance. Silence. Then a static-laced voice replied. Transmit DNA and visual. No weapons. One dock open. Don't test us. She complied. The gates opened slower than necessary. Deliberate. A message. You're barely tolerated here. Docking clamps clunked into place. Alira activated the cryopod's maglev and stepped onto the platform. Her boots hit the deck with a hollow thud. 2 sentries stood at the end of the bay, both species she didn't recognize, four-armed, armored in rusted plating. One inspected her ID while the other scanned the pod. She's human, Alira said, already defensive. She's not a weapon. The larger sentry grunted. Everything from Earth is a weapon. They let her through anyway. Inside, Kareth was chaos held together by distrust. Neon signs and 10 alphabets. Air thick with oil, dust, and fried protein. Traders shouted over one another. Drones buzzed overhead. Eyes followed her, most indifferent, some not. Alira kept walking. She found the contact she needed in a side chamber lined with obsolete memory rigs. Archivist Tino, once a historian for the council, now a half-exile living in circuits and regret. You're bold, Tino said without looking up. He was old, skin-mottled and translucent, wires running from his jaw into a terminal. Coming here with that. She's encoded. You helped design the council's neural interface models. I need access. I don't do charity. You want history unburied, don't you? That made him pause. He waved her closer. Put her on the table. Hours passed as Tino connected the survivor's neural node to his system. Lines of ancient human script spilled across the screen. She's holding 2 sets of memories, he muttered. One personal. One collective. Alira leaned over. Collective? Like a cultural backup. But not digital. Biological. Stories, faces, screams, all stored in her. Can we extract it? Carefully. Or it fractures her mind. He tapped in a command. A fragment loaded, a city under siege. Not by aliens, but humans. Factions. Weapons powered by gravitational collapse. Earth, torn by civil wars, and still rebuilding. Then the scene shifted. A hidden moon base. An Earth general speaking to a shadow council. We let them label us monsters. It kept them distant. It kept us safe. Now? We decide when they learn the truth. Alira felt her skin go cold. Earth hadn't disappeared. It had retreated. Ryle had been right. She stood outside the lab, clutching a recording of the survivor's memory feed. Her hand shook, not with fear, but purpose. The council lied. Earth had never been silenced. It had watched, waited, calculated every move. Their disappearance was strategy, not defeat. She keyed into her portable transmitter and opened a line. Kareth Broadcast Net. I'm Alira Voss. I have visual evidence of Earth's true status. Requesting open channel access for academic release. The operator answered bluntly. Council taps everything. You sure you want that kind of attention? I'm not hiding. She didn't wait for approval. She uploaded a portion of the feed, short, sharp, devastating. Earth during Reconstruction, unified under global command. Audio of the Obsidian Crown Directive. Preserve the myth. But build the sword behind the curtain. Footage of human outposts observing Council territory in secret. Close-up of a warning carved into a starship's hull. We remember what you erased. It went live in under 60 seconds. And in 70, the station shook. Not from an attack. From arrivals. 3 ships docked in rapid succession. None bore insignias. But Alira recognized their build, angular, dark, efficient. Earth Tech. She moved to the landing bay just as the doors slid open. A man stepped out. Clean-shaven. Pale uniform. A scar across his chin. She knew him from the memory logs. General Callistra, listed dead 50 years ago. You made quite the noise, he said calmly. You knew this would happen. I hoped it wouldn't need to. She stood her ground. Why hide? The galaxy's already afraid of us. Fear keeps them distant. Truth brings chaos. And Earth? We're not ready for open war. She frowned. Then why send the memories? Kale's eyes met hers. To remind us who we are. And to see who still cares. An alert pinged through her datapad. Ryle's beacon. He was alive. Docked at a council outpost, transmitting under ghost encryption. Injured. Minimal signal. They're following him, she said. Kale nodded once. Then we retrieve him. And we finish this. Alira arrived before the signal finished triangulating. Ryle's transmission cut in and out, barely holding. But the location was unmistakable. An old council relay outpost orbiting Drellex V, listed decommissioned years ago. The kind of place they didn't guard because they assumed no one would be desperate, or foolish, enough to return. She stood at the edge of the hangar bay, strapped into an Earth-built shuttle now under General Callistra's command. His crew, silent, sharp-eyed, made final checks with cold precision. No insignias. No flair. Just readiness. Kale turned to her. If we engage, it's extraction only. No kill sweep. We leave a message, not a massacre. I'm not here to start a war, Alira said. I'm here to make them look in the mirror. He nodded once. That was enough. The outpost loomed gray against the stars. No automated defenses. No visible power grid. A trap that didn't need to look like one. They landed hard. Alira was the first to move, flanked by two operatives. Heat signatures were everywhere, blurred and shifting. Too many for a place this small. Ryle was found near the comms tower, slumped against the wall, blood crusted across his collarbone, a makeshift bandage wrapped around his ribs. But his eyes were clear. You came fast, he rasped. Not fast enough, Alira said. He grinned weakly. You always say that. Kale arrived behind her. We need to move. They'll jam the escape lanes in under 3 minutes. Ryle grunted. Then give me one. The three of them climbed into the relay center. Dust coated every surface. Screens long dormant blinked alive as Kale's override codes hit the core. Ryle slumped into a chair, clutching a small transmitter. This is the original hub for the Council's Deathworld classification network, he said. Every broadcast tagged for suppression was routed through here before deletion. And you kept that from being wiped? Alira asked. Ryle nodded. Buried a local copy in the maintenance core before I burned my ID. Kale loaded a drive into the terminal. We have one shot. If the signal's clean, it'll push across every unfiltered civilian network within jump radius. Past that, depends on who shares it. Alira activated her recorder. Her hand didn't shake. This is Alira Voss. I'm a xenoanthropologist. Human. What I'm about to show you has never been seen outside council walls. She tapped the drive. A montage began to upload, seared into the feed by every unlocked relay. Humans landing on methane worlds. Terraforming planets abandoned as uninhabitable. First contact missions gone wrong, and made right. Humans bleeding beside alien allies in forgotten wars. Not for conquest. For survival. For meaning. Then the voice of the survivor woman, clearer now, shaped by memory. They erased what we endured. But we carried it in blood. In whispers. In scars no one saw. You feared us because you could not break us. Alira stepped back as the signal reached full saturation. Kale confirmed it. Transmission seeded. 12 planetary systems. Already pinging rebroadcasts. Then the alarm sounded. Council interceptors. The corridor erupted in red light. Kale's operatives moved fast, securing exit points. Ryle shoved himself upright with a groan. Alira moved to steady him, but he waved her off. "Keep the feed running," he said. "No matter what." Kale checked his sidearm. "We can hold for 7 minutes. After that, the blast doors give." Alira didn't hesitate. "Then we make every second count." The first wave hit harder than expected. Council forces, elite units, moved with surgical precision, neutralizing systems rather than soldiers. Their goal wasn't death. It was erasure. Ryle fired from the comm tower, picking off suppression drones before they could launch signal jammers. Alira stayed in the center, monitoring the spread of the transmission. 5 systems. Then 9. Then 18. Each broadcast carried more than data, it carried memory. A story told by a species that refused to vanish. The Council's lie had ruptured. And something new had taken root. The pressure mounted. Kale was hit. A glancing shot, enough to drop him, blood soaking his shoulder. He pulled Alira behind cover. "They'll try to reset the relay core. If they succeed, they won't." She turned to Ryle. His jaw clenched, pistol low, breathing uneven. He looked at her. "We never had a choice in how they labeled us. But now they'll have no choice but to listen." She nodded. "And what if they come harder after this? Then we give them more than words." With 30 seconds left before the main core shut down, Alira opened the last file. It was dated 50 years ago. Audio only. "If you're hearing this, it means Earth survived. Not as conquerors. Not as victims. As proof that species like ours don't disappear. We adapt. We endure. And when the time comes, we remember who erased us." The voice was her father's. She hadn't heard it since she was a child. Ryle leaned beside her. "You okay?" "No," she said. "But I'm ready." The feed completed. Every system connected to the Council's peripheral net now carried the truth. Embedded. Archived. Shared by beings who didn't even know Earth existed yesterday. But they knew now. And they would not forget. They escaped through a blind jump corridor, coordinates provided by Kale's crew. Ryle collapsed into the medbay. Alira held his hand the whole way. Back at Caress Station, chaos had already begun. Council denouncements. Protests on neutral worlds. Delegates walking out of chambers mid-session. One alien journalist, previously silent for decades, simply posted a message. "You called them unstable. But maybe they're the only ones sane enough to survive a broken galaxy." Weeks later, Alira returned to the Edge of Sol. She stood on a moon base, one hidden behind gravity distortions and magnetic mirrors. She looked down at Earth. Blue. Fierce. Quiet. General Kale stood beside her, arm in a sling. "It's done," he said. "No," she replied. "It started."